the stage when I'm about to get it. Like I bust out of this cage when I started winning. Watch the bright lights fade when I'm on them swinging. Plus I'm about to get paid like I'm on a mission. This ain't fight night, baby, this is night night. Yeah, feeling right, knuckles clench, I got the mic tight. Lay my belt on the bench cause it's in my sights. Yeah, plus I'm coming for your head, Chuck, ice tight. I ain't no stranger to circumstance, don't notice I'm about to dance. I keep my ship tight cause any moment I'm throwing hands. I'm blowing up on your man, KOing him on demand. Fight of the night, bitch, I'll put ice in my corner, man. Coming for you, ain't no weakness. Go down the mission, no secret. Flick of the wrist, no sleep, it's coming for your head.
Hi guys, welcome to another Fordewin MMA interview. Today I'm joined by the latest winner of the Contender series, Mr. Carlos Hernández, straight up from BSF. How you doing, brother? Welcome to Fordewin MMA.
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm so happy for you. I've been following your career, waiting up to this moment until we could see you in the Contender series, and man, did you deliver. How are you feeling after all this amazing experience?
Yeah, man, it's been a heck of a ride so far, kind of leading up to it, there's all that anxiety and stress and stuff from a camp, but leading up to this one, I guess it was a little more because we knew for a while since maybe June or whatever, or May, about the fight, so it's just you just kind of sitting around thinking about it, training, waking up thinking about it, until camp finally starts. And then camp was good, kind of was long, but kind of felt like it was quick too. But happy to have it done with already. Finally, be able to move on from it, and obviously real happy to get the win in the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a picture of you making the official signature with. I'm guessing it was at the BFS headquarters with Piera, right?
Yeah. We were at the gym. We signed it. It was that Saturday or Friday or whatever, that weekend, right after the fight. Made it officially official, like I said.
Did you guys had a little ceremony? There were words there before the signature, maybe some champagne popping. I don't know. How do you guys roll?
No, none of that stuff. It was just kind of more of the celebrating stuff was right after the fight on Tuesday. Went out to eat and stuff. Went out for a drink. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of hugs, pictures, happy, and kind of just ready to move on to the next one.
Absolutely, man. Well, it was a tough fight. It was a split decision against Daniel Barres. How do you feel about your performance? Because a split decision doesn't always feel great, right? So I wanted to hear your take. How do you feel you did personally, and do you agree with the split decision?
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, split doesn't always feel great. We train to dominate, right? You want to go in there and dominate. You don't want a close fight or going to the judges. I mean, going to the judges, it's bound to happen, right? You can't finish everybody. But no, overall, it was a close fight, right? You saw me afterwards in the cage. I made the close signal because it was close, right? No, looking back on it, I do feel like I did enough to get the nod. You could have make an argument there was 1-1 going into the third, and he got the 2 takedowns, yeah, but he really didn't do anything with them, right? And not just because the fight played out the way it played out, but if you get a takedown and you don't really do much, I personally don't think they should count. I feel like you gotta be working towards some ground and pound, multiple submission attempts, or just transitioning to a better position from everything. All the scrambles or all the movement stuff kind of was dictated off my movement stuff. So I feel like I definitely outvalued him in the third. Not happy with the performance, right? Not my best showing, I think, but like I said in post-fight interview stuff, right? The good ones always find a way to win, even when they're not at their best. So I was happy I was able to do that. I was able to impress the boss, which was the second hard part, right, of the night. Not only do you have to win, but you gotta do it in an impressive fashion. You gotta be able to impress him, the matchmaker, so that you get in. So yeah, it was good it was just a good experience, I guess, right? But we're in the UFC now. There's not really going to be easy fights, so it's good to be able to dig deep the way we did for that fight, and just kind of learn from it and get better now and try and dominate from here on out.
I was gonna touch up on that. I saw that you had a moment there with Dana. You said that you felt like you made an impression on the brass. Did you share any words afterwards with the guys? Did you had any comments from the people there?
No, just kind of like went up to them and shook their hands and stuff. I didn't really see them too much after the fight, after the announcement stuff. Dana just kind of said like, good job, congrats, a heck of a fight, stuff like that. Just a little small talk, nothing like too in depth with any of them.
I see. Well, what was the vibe with the team with, of course, Coach Mike, who has been like, in my experience watching the fights during the year, I've seen a lot of BFS fighters breaking through. We've seen Belal making his climb up the ranks. We've seen Nacho making his breakthrough performances. And there's a lot of talent coming out of BFS. And I just wanted to know what was the spirit after the fact with Carlos and the newest birthday boy. He was recently, happy birthday to our man Berto, Alberto, the grappling coach of BFS, who's a great guy in my opinion. I've had the pleasure to talk to him, and he's a really funny guy. How was the vibe with the team afterwards? What are your lessons? What did you discuss afterwards?
So after, everyone was ecstatic. You know, we got the job done. We got the win, got the contract. I guess I kind of put them through the ringer, right, with the nerves and stuff and the close fight and everything. But no, everyone was super happy. Pierre was there as well. Another teammate who lives in the area now. But no, it was awesome. The whole experience was just kind of, felt surreal, you know. So just being able to go through that with them was awesome. And we haven't broke down the fight too much yet. We haven't rewatched it, just kind of slowly getting back in the gym and stuff. But obviously there's stuff to correct, you know. Not just because it wasn't my best performance, but just little stuff, little details. So I'm sure before we get into start talking about the debut stuff, we'll go over it and fix that stuff, but like we typically do with any other fight.
Yeah, but you know what? You got the job done. I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to discredit that performance, because it was such a gritty performance that showed us what Carlos Hernández is made of. So I really think that we as fans, we won. Even though it was a split decision, it allowed us to show everything that you have to offer. And I feel that, like you said before, there's a lot of room to improve, but also it shows everybody in the fans what got you into the dance, so to speak. And I really love that you had the chance to show us that.
Yeah, and that's what Alberto was actually going over and talking to me in the back. There was, I don't know if it was a second fight or, I think it was the second fight where the guy I think he choked him out relatively quick, right? And he had a similar record to mine, but Dana didn't sign him. He wanted to see a little more, so he's making him fight again next month or something like that in Colorado or something like that. So Alberto's like, maybe if you go in there and get the quick win, like maybe you don't get signed, you know? So he's like, in a way, it kind of worked out where like you both kind of had to show what you're made of, you know, and dig deep and stuff. And it left a good impression on Dana and the matchmakers and stuff. So yeah, like you're saying, in a way, that was a good thing, right? You know, kind of showed the UFC brass like what I'm made of, that I'm capable of hanging. And kind of just grow the fan base, you know, right?
Right, absolutely. What I'm getting an appetite now is I'm getting an appetite for a card that can have a strong Chicago-based fighters in it. Like now it opens the chance for you, Belal, Ignacio, and maybe somebody else to participate on a card. Juliana, Feliz, of course. There's a lot of people there. So
yeah.
How do you feel about the chances to do that?
Post fight, that's like one of the things, because one of the reporters was like, because like I was a little like harsh on myself, you know, kind of like I typically am, and they're like, oh, like you just got in the UFC, a little more emotion, whatever. And I'm like, if you guys want more emotion, like let's get back to United Center, you know, get us in Chicago, get all the VFS guys in there, you know, we'll pack the place, and that would be electric, you know, that'd be like another dream come true. You know, I was born a freaking mile down the road from the UC. So, getting a fight there that'd be awesome. And like you're saying, getting all the VFS crew, I think you listed them all. I think there's like 5 of us now from the gym in the UFC. So that'd be a dope a dope thing to get together.
I would definitely try my best to go to that card, because I mean, if Nacho's there and you guys are fighting in it, man, that's something that I cannot just go ahead and pass. I'll try to go there.
That'd be electric. That'd be wild.
Yeah, of course. Man, well, you were talking about growing up really close to the what was the name? I'm sorry, the center, the
United Center,
the United Center.
Or Cicero.
Yeah, right. So it got me thinking about your upbringing. I saw this picture of you recently on your social media. Like the kid got his dream, right? This is a beautiful thing to see. I mean, to see you from a kid, from being such a kid, getting involved into combat sports. Did you ever dream of doing this, of being a UFC fighter? Was that always the dream, or was it something that it kind of took on its own and it started evolving once you were getting into martial arts?
Yeah, so at first, I was like 8 years old. I was a chubby little 8-year-old just playing soccer, and I hated it. I hated this stuff. But at the time, like my parents and my coaches, like, I don't know, I guess they saw something in me, right? So after the first year, I was telling them, like, oh, I just want to play soccer. I don't want to do this anymore. But they kept me in it, They're like, oh, do it one more year. And around like my teenage years, it's like when I was like, I was able to like envision myself and start dreaming of like doing this like as a job, as a living and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of something that just kind of ran its course. Like it started becoming more and more of like a passion. But at first I hated it. Absolutely hated it, and I sucked at it too. I think I lost like my first 4 kickboxing fights as a kid. It was bad, but I just kind of started like, I don't know, once everything started clicking and going together, it was like, okay, I could see myself doing this, and then you kind of start seeing or I start watching the UFC more as I'm growing up, and I'm like, oh, that'd be sick to freaking fight in an octagon one day, and then you get to the Contender and you're like, holy crap, like I'm 1 win away from all that being a reality. So it's a good experience. It's been a good, fun experience so far, and now we're here at the next chapter, I guess you could say. Here's where it gets
where it gets really real, right? Like you're actually in there and you're looking at the guys at the events at the UFC PI or wherever you are, and you're starting to see people that you're actually going to compete with. And that's when it starts happening, that your heroes become your competition, right? And I was going to ask you, because I know that you're a natural flyweight. I don't think that you're aiming to change in divisions, right? You will compete as a flyweight?
No, yeah, the plan's flyweight.
Right.
There's no plan. I mean, the weight cuts are fairly smooth, not fun, right? But
right.
No, everything's really smooth. The diet's always solid. So yeah, making flyweights not
right.
Not too like greedy and stuff. So yeah.
What I was going with was that if you're going to stay in flyweight, the route to success or the route to whatever it is your dream in the UFC, I'm pretty sure is to go as high as you can get, right? So at the end of that, there's a guy that I'm pretty sure that inspires you like crazy, right? In terms of the figure, the guy who conquered the flyweight crown right now, which is Brandon Moreno, a guy who, as we all know, has this amazing story, right? So I was just wondering, what's your take on this path that you'll embark on right now, from this win in the Contender series all the way up to maybe fighting one of the biggest guys there is in the division's history?
I mean, I haven't thought that too far ahead right now. I mean, obviously, right, the goal is the title, right? That's why we're all in this, right? To be the best. Right now, kind of my mindset's just on getting better, fixing the things that need to be fixed from the last fight, and then just start getting ready and focused for the debut. As far as like looking up and idolizing, like, yeah, I respect what he's done, what any champion has done in the organization, but I wouldn't say I like you said, idols become your rivals. I don't really look up to anybody, you know. I respect what people have done. If there's like a fighter, not just in MMA, but in like boxing or kickboxing, if there's something that I see that I like that they do and it works for my game, and I'll try to implement it and stuff like that. But as far as like idolizing anybody or like wanting to be like anybody, that's never been really, I don't know, just I don't know if you want to say my style or just the kind of person I am.
It's just not a part of what you envision, right?
Yeah, no, it's not part of, like, I don't even think of stuff like that.
I see.
I just think of the next guy in front of me, you know, kind of thing.
Well, now that we're talking about the next guy, do you have anyone in mind? Have you seen anybody, I don't know, maybe in the Contender series or somebody in the UFC that is already in the UFC that you're trying to take your hands on, right? Like if you want to get a fight done?
No, right now we just kind of sit down with coach and Piera and stuff. We just kind of have like a timetable that we're gonna or like a time we're thinking of. We're thinking like February, March.
Oh, right. I was going to ask you about that, if that timetable included competing this year. Nacho's like in the late February card. So if we can get both on that card, that'd be great. Yeah.
Take all our coaches, you know. But if not, something like February, March would be nice. We just got to kind of get in talk with Mick and stuff. But as far as names, I have no idea yet. We'll see what they throw out there and kind of just go from there. Don't have anyone particular in mind right now.
I see. Well, let's shift gears completely, Carlos. Do you like movies?
Yeah. I like to go to movies a lot before the whole pandemic and everything is shut down.
What's your favorite movie? Like in the last 2 years, what's your favorite movie?
In the last 2 years, I think I got to go Endgame.
Wow, yeah, that's a big one.
Endgame. That fight scene, oh man, that was dope. And then Captain America gets Thor's hammer, like that just gets the heart rate bumping, it's adrenaline going. That was fun to watch.
Did you get kind of teary eyed when you heard on your left and all the portals started opening up?
Yeah, that was like one of the dope, like the hairs on the back of your neck start standing up, and that was dope.
Yeah, well, you're young. You started probably watching all the Avengers series when you were in your, I don't know, 14, 15, right? Yeah. So been keeping up fairly well with most of them. So you're a nerd just like me and like some other dudes that have come through for the win that usually we start talking about comic books with, I don't know, guys like Paul Craig the other day, and we found out that he was a complete nerd. Like he loves his Batman. So do you have any favorite superheroes, man?
Oh, dude, I love the Deadpool movies. Just the sarcasm, and it's just a little different twist, you know? It's not like the typical superhero movie. So yeah, like both Deadpool's big fan of. Excited for the new one coming out too.
Yeah,
I think they're making it rated R or something. They said so. It should be even better.
I love how they constantly break the fourth wall and they make fun of themselves and everything behind the process. It's amazing, man. So, Carlitos, what else do you like? What do you like to eat, man? Because everybody knows that I'm a huge foodie. Like my cheeks don't lie, man. So I wanted to know, in Chicago, Chicago is known for having amazing places to get your grub on, right? So it's cheat day. Carlitos is out and about looking for something to eat. What's the go-to?
Oh, dude, yeah, it's easy. That's pizza. But not necessarily like people hear Chicago and they think all the deep dish stuff. But no, there's a good amount of places with just like regular thin crust that's like super good. One of my favorite spots is like in the South Side. It's called Phil's, where they put like Italian beef on the pizza.
Whoa,
and I was
nasty.
Yeah, dude, I was a little skeptical at first too when my parents told me about it, and then I tried it, and dude, it's a game changer. That's good.
Amazing.
Yeah, man. that one surprised me. I was like the same thing with you. I was like, man, that sounds like beef and pizza. Sounds like they don't go together. But
yeah, I mean, I said nasty, but in the most delicious way. I mean, I'm all about mixing it up, of course. Well, before we go, Carlos, I just wanted to get to know a bit about you as a person. Like we said before, we love our commonalities here are the movies we see, is the food we eat, is the music we listen to. What's your favorite jam before training, like to get you pumped up?
Dude, it's weird. I could work out to no music or anything that's playing. Like, I think I've got a pretty wide range of music I listen to. Coach Mike's kind of bigger on the rock side. My Chilenos are bigger. They got us with the Latin hookup. The Texans, Kike and them got the rap and stuff going. I went to school up north in Minnesota with a lot of friends that like country music, so a little bit of everything. Eclectic.
Hey, well, you hang out with a lot of Chileans. Like you said just recently, you have Ignacio, you have Carito. Sometimes Jaulita Chico goes by too, and Jaula Senior goes as well. So I wanted to know what's the vibe with the Chilenos from the rest of the team?
Oh man, they're dope. Yeah, like you said, Nacho's dad came recently, and
he actually
did a few, except when he's coaching, man.
Oh,
he
yeah.
Did a few practices. He did a few practices, and I was like, geez, like, he's like, kick, and it's like fast. And I was like, dang, I see why Nacho's kicks are so good and stuff now. This dude, like, just puts us through the ringer. But no, it was good. It's always good to get, like a new look and stuff, right?
Right.
So that was cool. That little Jaulita, not so little, man. He's probably bigger than me already now.
Man, he's a big
but
kid.
he's game too. He's gonna be fun to watch growing up. Then he's Gato and Nacho, where I always see them on a daily basis. Always cool and chill with them, messing around at the gym.
Yeah. Have you ever had the chance to eat completitos with them? Like Caro does this thing. They're like hot dogs, but we call them completos because we smash avocado on top of them with tomato and a few things. If you haven't tried it, you have to tell Caro that we sent you there. That you have to you have to demand for those completitos.
Gotcha. I'll make a note. I gotta let her know.
Yeah,
next
absolutely. Caro is a total foodie too. We always every time we start talking fights, it's like, yeah, you're gonna fight. It's gonna be amazing. But girl, what have you eaten lately? What's the latest goody thing that you?
What are you gonna eat after? And stuff
like that. Right.
Huh?
That's the kind of shit we talk about. So Carlos, man, it's been a blast. One final question: is Bilal already talking about having you at the RTS, at the Remember This Show series for a game show?
I actually haven't seen him. I think he's been out in Vegas and stuff, and he typically goes to just the morning practices with us. So I haven't got the chance to see him in person yet. But who knows? Maybe it'll have to be after the debut or something.
Right.
Get a little more followers before I earn my spot on there. Nacho needed
needed the highlight reel, right?
Before he got his invite, so I might have to earn it, do a little more to earn it before I get on. We'll see.
Bilal plays hard to get too. He doesn't reply to my DM sometimes, so he's hard to get. But yeah, Carlos, man, it's been a pleasure, man. I love the energy that you're bringing to this flyweight division. It's always good to have new blood, and what better blood than Mexican, man? Blood,
right?
Blood that ensues action, of course, man. I want to leave you in a good high note. Maybe you can say something to the Latin American fans, all the people that speaks Espanol. I know that you have your Latin roots, so if you want to give it a go in Spanish or in English, my man, the stage is yours.
Yeah, gotcha. Just want a quick shout out to everyone at VFS, all the coaches, training teammates. Thank you guys. Shout out to the Union Designs, make my logos and on my shirts. We should have something new dropping. Cherry and Moore for the CMOS, King Meech getting me on it, and Yummy Bites, who was a huge help in my last camp, getting all my food and stuff ready. Y gracias a toda la gente de México que me apoya. Y vamos a seguir dándole y ahí hasta la próxima nos vemos. Gracias.
Excelente, Carlos. Well, there you have it, folks. Carlos Hernández, new member of the UFC Flyweight division. Carlitos, best of luck on your UFC career. We're looking forward to see you compete again, my man.
Thank you guys.
Got no time to relax, always working, no stop. Leave my soul on the track, bounce your head off the mat. This is one stop shop, got what you need in the back. Coming for the win, no weakness.